Mhm. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soulprint. We have the very bestest Kathy Beal here from um, Professional Aquarian. I don't know why I have trouble with these names. Um, so I once again asked her to please come on and just sort of try and explain what the hell's going on in our world. There's lots of big planets that are moving and shifting, and that's, I guess, the explanation for a lot of stuff. Um, so just sort of an overview. I'm going to let Kathy introduce herself and tell you all the amazing ways that you can access her information. But um, we're going to take a quick peek at Canada because there's some stuff going on there. And we're going to take, well, I'm not going to, she's going to take a look at sort of some of the big planetary shifts and how we're going to be feeling them and the impact. She's going to take a quick peek at Trump just because he's becoming so volatile and so aggressive to see if we can get any guidance or insight on that. Um, I'm going to steal her thunder for a second. She um, does a joint video with Louise Hoop.
Eddington.
Yes. And it just got released and it's called Back to the Future. I strongly encourage you to go check it out. And that's on, you can find that on Professional Aquarian, right?
Right.
Perfect. Because she tells me that there's some sort of stuff that we probably want to be mindful of that kind of goes back. All right, Kathy, thank you so very much for being here. I always so appreciate it.
I always enjoy talking with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Just take it away.
Well, let's see. Let's start with the big picture because then we can put the other pieces into it. This year, all of the outer planets, which are generational influences, collective influences, are all moving into new modes, new energies. We've lived through some of these in before. Um, Two of them, nobody who's currently alive has ever lived has lived through. And this collective shift we have not lived through. And that has to do with all these planets moving from basically the energy of mud to fire and air, which really ramp each other up. So Pluto has been in an air sign for a while, and we've had a lot of talk about that. Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto, when Pluto changes signs, there's a redistribution of power in some way. And in Aquarius, the last time this happened was the French Revolution, the American Revolution. I think in Haiti, maybe like 80 other countries, there was a lot of revolution on the planet. The concept of the middle class emerged in France. The ideas of democracy were actually written down in France and in the US Constitution, the Industrial Revolution. So big shifts in how power and wealth went. And you can keep taking it back every 250 years, but that's one big one. So that we've already been dealing with, and we've seen uh, tech bros, the power of information and who controls data and technology being a big issue, but we've also seen the collective power of people just taking to the streets, and that's going to be even more. So that's the first piece. The end of March and at the end of May, two bodies shifted, Neptune and Saturn. Neptune's about our connection to spirit, our connection to something that transcends earthly experience, which can be, how being crazy, drug abuse, great creativity. Neptune rules film, that sort of thing. And Neptune was last in Aries in the mid 1800s. And everyone goes, oh
Wow.
no, that's when the Civil War started. Well, there was other stuff going on, and it's not quite the same. Saturn, which uh, I call the planet of adulting, moved into Aries at the end of May, and Saturn and Neptune are kind of running like companions. They'll meet exactly in February of next year. They come close to a meeting in July. So mid-July is a peak time for a lot of things. Just keep that in the back of your mind. All right. So Saturn was last in Aries in 1996 to 1999. Saturn and Neptune together have, in differing signs, have there are some things that have predictably happened when they have met, no matter what the sign. And it's real important to the existence of Russia. They were together during the Russian Revolution. They were together when Stalin died, when Putin was born, when the Berlin Wall fell, and the Soviet Union started to just lose a terrific amount of territory. So that's one thing. Massive, some kind of big evolutionary change coming for Russia. Boundaries are also really important. I think the boundary between the U.S. and Alberta got locked into place under a Saturn Neptune. Anyway, just a thing. So that's floating around, and Saturn and Neptune and Pluto are getting along in these. So it's like fire and air, whipping things up. Last week, the planet that increases everything it touches, Jupiter, moved into Cancer. This is going to be good news for Canada in a minute. All right. So, Jupiter in Cancer uh, amplifies needs for nurturing, attention to home, comfort, who we want to take care of. And this is happening in the context of a couple of other planetary positions that are encouraging doing things with your hands, paying attention to how you're using your resources, simplifying, um, taking care of, indulging in creature comforts. I put a video up about Jupiter and Cancer that has a whole bunch of things that people are finding themselves wanting to do, like canning and growing food, and I'm going to crochet or doing stuff and sharing it. So that's a piece. And Jupiter is the only odd man out in all of this because it's in this really watery, emotional energy, which is pushing against the fire that Saturn and Neptune have. So it could be dampening some of the spiritual warrior, I'm on a mission vibe. It could be dampening some of the I'm going to cram my ways down your throat vibe. We're seeing a bit of that. It could be adding an emotional content to what people are standing up for. And in it could the contact could also be putting some passion into our emotions. So that's one way of looking at it, right? In July, the final figure changes signs, and that's the planet Uranus. Uranus is, he lobs lightning bolts. I call him the cosmic agent of unpredictable change. It's a liberating, awakening energy, and it's going to move into Gemini, an air sign. And it's going to be in a direct flow with whatever's going on with Pluto. So big changes in communication and technology, kind of startlingly out of the blue. And it's going to be in a cooperative aspect with Saturn and Neptune. So we're moving into a very different way of how we're doing things collectively, what our relationship to authority is. And I'll just put the pause button here and quell anybody who any anxiety about, oh my God, civil war. Not necessarily, because Abraham Lincoln was born with Saturn and Neptune conjunct. So was Charles Darwin, interestingly. In fact, I think they were born on the same day, which is fascinating. But Saturn and Neptune together in the sign that they're in, Aries, with other astrologers I know have actually been able to push back before the era of Christ. And there was a time in the late 400s BCE when power got shifted in Athens from the king to a council of landowners who took more responsibility for how they were running things. I'll also say this Neptune and Aries coincides with the Magna Carta, with the nobles saying to the king, you've got to share power with us. But when I gave a talk about all of this a few weeks ago, one of the people in the class had done research and he tracked the first Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries to a date that was it's like 49 something hundred BCE, that the dawn of civilization. So you can look at what's going on now as a rebirth, a rebirth. And it's a rebirth that has parallels with power going to underrepresented populations or unrepresented populations, because women's rights figure into this as well, and slavery actually. So we're in this time where we get a coming attractions trailer, or we get dunked into, here's what's coming next year, we're going to test it out, and then things start to scooch back into old energy for the final round of cleanup starting in September. And what I've been telling my clients is it'll be insane this summer, peak time being July. And then in September, it starts feeling like an amusement park ride coming back to the station, and someone pumps the brakes, and the brakes get pumped again in October, and then they get pumped again in November. And then by December, everyone's kind of just sitting going, where do I want to go with this? And being very everyone's in project management mode, like I'm going to make a spreadsheet. I'm going to figure things out. So after crazy, crazy, crazy summer, regrouping at the end of the year and starting to come up with incremental plans of where we want to go and how we're going to get there. I realize I just threw a lot at you, but this is affecting everyone and everything.
And it's good we know that.
Was it clear? Do you have questions about anything that I
Well,
asked?
actually, you know what? It all made sense to me. Um, yeah, go on. Yeah, I don't. It was really clear to the way
Okay.
you laid
So
it out.
essentially, there's much more of an immediate vibe of I'm going to do something about this, or I'm going to talk, or I'm going to, and not sitting around and feeling like you have, like your feet are stuck in concrete, which is what the end of last year very much felt like.
Which clearly would explain the amazing response to all of the protests that are going on, because they're
Yes.
bigger and louder and more consistent, I think, than anybody expected. Correct?
Yes. Yes.
Look
Also,
at me
people are
nailing
dancing. People are dancing, they're performing music, they're doing all kinds of stuff. And hearkening back to what I said about Jupiter in Cancer, protesters are giving water and food to troops that got sent into LA because nobody made any provisions for food or where they were going to stay. These guys some of them are sleeping on the floor in federal buildings. So, protesters sharing sustenance is a really beautiful Jupiter in Cancer expression.
Yeah, it is. It is, absolutely. Because I think that there, on some level, is a lot of resistance to the fact that those troops even showed up, because the way I
Absolutely.
understand it, they shouldn't be there legally.
Uh, Legally, no, but we'll say, yeah. So the state of California immediately filed a suit, and I suspect that the state of California will get injunctive relief, and I suspect it will be appealed all the way up, and I have no faith in what will happen once it hits Supreme Court. So,
Valid, valid.
yeah,
Okay, so let's start with Canada and find
yeah.
out how that all fits in, and then we'll move forward.
Well, I mentioned that Jupiter has moved into Cancer. Jupiter has a 12-year cycle. So it is now where it was 12 years ago, where it was 24 years ago, where it was 36 years ago, roughly. So you can look back in Canadian political history and see things that were going on during those time frames. But the reason this is a really important transit for Canada is that it has a lot of placements in the sign of Cancer, as does the United States. There's a reason we're, until recently, kindred, like neighbors and allies,
Yes.
because so it has the sun, its reason for being is in, um, why did I do this? It's in Cancer, and so, I mean, the purpose is homeland. Cancer is very much about love of country and what you consider your home and nurturing and taking care of the people that you love. But Canada has two other placements there as well. The country's moon is also in Cancer. The moon represents the people. It's almost a new moon. So Canada was formed in the dark of the moon, maybe a half a day or a day and a half before the moon was, maybe not even that far. Later in the day that maybe by the evening of the day that it was formed, it was a new moon. So I don't know what time of day it was. I ran a noon chart. Who knows? Who knows when it was officially? But at any rate, um, so the people, the soft inner core of the country is very much like the outward personality and mission. So like inward and outward, that's what it is, which is very different from what is going on below you. We have a very, very different moon. There's a real strong independent streak. But you guys, your country is wired for the notion of unity, except that Uranus is right there in the middle of this. Now, Uranus is where you do something differently. So this is not stultifying. We're just all going to sit around and hold hands and stare in each other's eyes. There are irritants. There are things that are different. It could be that many different types of people formed the country. I don't know if this also has something to do with indigenous people being and the role that they have played in all of this. But bottom line is that Jupiter is going to move over those placements uh, by in July. And by the end of July, it is going to uh, link directly to the country's natal Jupiter. So this could be, and Canada has Jupiter in Pisces, which is like pouring the waters out. I mean, you have, I'm sure it's broken. I'm sure there are problems with it, but don't you have a national health system?
Yeah,
That would be
absolutely.
part of it.
And
Like,
it's overburdened, but
yeah,
you know, we don't live in a place where um, somebody getting sick is a crisis. It's just not a financial
right.
one. It could be an emotional one. Um,
Hmm.
I've been sharing with my viewers sort of some of the health things that, go on in my world. And Vanessa went through like a real thing where she was getting MRIs and she had like top neurosurgeons working and trying to figure out what was going on. And it ended up that she ended up having what it was like some sort of a really intense migraine that created stroke-like factors. So I'm taking my kid to the hospital saying she's 24 and I actually think she's having a stroke. Um, the only thing it cost me was parking at the hospital. So we live with a very different sort of feeling. But yeah,
Of
you
we
know
take
what, we
care
pay
of
more
our own.
taxes and we pay more this and we do that.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we don't have to think about, can I actually afford to go to a hospital and deliver a baby, right? Can I actually afford cancer treatment? So even though the system is a little overburdened, um, it's still working.
So what I see happening this summer, in the next 4 to 6 weeks, is a period of really um, amplifying national cohesiveness and like a recommitment to what you do for other people. And I mean, there's a stereotype down here about Canadians being just incredibly nice people. Just decent, nice people. That may be wrong, but that's a stereotype, and that's really going to get pumped up. And I would see the probability of patriotism and national pride just building over the next month and a half. And there's also a willingness to dive in and deal with problems, issues. Canada is about to have its Mars return. Now, a return is when a planet comes back to where it was when something was born. And about every 2 years, Mars comes back to where it was. So Canada has Mars in Virgo, which is very pragmatic. How do I fix this? I've been talking a lot about the fix it gene with this, but this is think about it, talk about it, be careful, be real measured, maybe be a little critical, but this is not, I'm going to shoot from the hip and go do big things. And the this placement is in a very harmonious relationship with the sun and the moon and even Uranus in Canada's chart, meaning that it's easy to attack a problem and go, okay, now what do we do about it? Now, people could go overboard with being critical, but there's still a natural collective drive toward how do we make this work?
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that also
Canada
gets,
has not felt this unified, and I don't remember ever feeling like this. And you have all the premiers of these provinces actually talking to each other and getting along and trying to figure out how to move
Mhm.
goods from one, from Alberta to the coast so that, oil can be transported and stuff. There is a cohesiveness going on in this country now that is just remarkable to watch, honestly.
Well, and there will be a kind of resetting and a rebooting of a lot of things starting in September. So I don't know where it goes, but this is a astrologically, this explains because there's like an awareness of we are family, we take care of family. What are we going to do to make things better?
And our family in this country tends to be far more inclusive than perhaps our neighbors to the south. And I'm not saying that there isn't bias and bigotry, but by and large, we are more just welcoming and accepting. We have a great amount of clarity about the fact that this country was built on immigrants. And like generally speaking, most people running around the country are either second, third, or fourth generation Canadians. It does not go back
Mm,
hundreds and hundreds of years. So there is still very much that feeling of, we get it, we understand. Come here, make a home.
No,
We're nice
you
people.
don't have the wound that your neighbors do. You have a different wound, but that's not it. So that's I think it's going to be a very unifying and beneficial summer for
Excellent.
Canada.
That's really good. Okay, so what's going on then? Neighbors to the south. What can we expect in the States?
Well, right now we're recording this on the 12th.
Right.
And on the 15th, there are a couple of things happening that could upset a lot of apple carts. And one of them is an aspect that has happened several times since July of last year. there was an event in Pennsylvania, dot, dot, dot. So a recurrence of that is occurring, and a way to look at that aspect is not, oh my God, there's going to be violence. There might be, I don't know. But something has been destabilized. Something in the supports of a certain person's life has been destabilized again and again and again. And March 15 was another, middle of March was another really big time for the destabilizing. And this time when the something's got to give, anger hitting something really volatile, planet Mars is going to be in a forceful aspect with Uranus. So they're
Right.
both, so accidents could be huge. There's no telling. Anger, no telling. Um, or just breaking a system apart. And this happens at the same time that Jupiter, the guy that makes everything bigger, has his first clash with Saturn. Rules, walls, no accountability, responsibility, being mature, the leader. So, something big is happening this weekend that will challenge what is going on in Washington. And it is fascinating that protests have been planned for a long time all over the country the day before. Often, the real impact of a big aspect is right before it's exact. I would expect things on Saturday, things over the weekend in general, to not go the way most everybody thinks they're going to go, especially the person who thinks he's getting a birthday parade. So that's one big thing. Then, as we go into this time of all the planets being in cahoots in a new way, I have a Gen Z girlfriend who looked at me and went, cahoots? My mother uses that word. Nobody else does. I'm like, well, I do. They'll be in cahoots. So,
I
show my
use it
age.
too.
I don't care. Yeah, see? Right.
Yeah, huge.
Um, there are, as we get toward the end of June, and I'm not sure people are going to be talking about it from this framework, but it's the way I look at it. The planet of communication starts to travel over territory that was really important at a couple of pivotal times in the US election.
Right.
And it's going to make an opposition to the planet Pluto. Now, why is this important? Mars Pluto oppositions occurred a couple of days before the election. One occurred the day the election was certified, and there was one again in March. I'm pretty sure it was the final time. So I say information will be coming out about things that happened involving, oh, let me guess, technology. And there is an uptick this week, although Mercury isn't there yet, but there's an uptick this week in mainstream media picking up stories that have been floating around other places online about there's one suit for a recount in a county in New York State where the Democratic senatorial candidate got some huge amount of the vote and the presidential candidate got zero. Statistically improbable. And then there's another suit that has to do with changes in voting machines right before the election. So the point of all this is the noise is mounting and it's hitting mainstream media. I mean, like MSN, the Microsoft Network, news, the Associated Press, Newswire, Newsweek. This is big, and they're starting to talk about, huh, maybe she won. Then in July, the planet Venus, women, Venus changes signs and starts to move into the part of the US chart that deals with partners, allies, open enemies, but it's going to start communicating with, in a really helpful way, that's Saturn and Neptune. So let me go back to Saturn and Neptune one more time. When Neptune first moved into Aries at the end of March, a senator took to the floor and talked for more than 25 hours. So that was the first expression of spiritual mission. Then, when Saturn moved, no, when Venus moved into Aries, that's right. Um, no, when Mercury moved into Aries, there we go, and started meeting with that, the Attorney General for the state of New York went on a rampage about stripping of funding for low-income children's support projects. There's a there's something that's kind of there's a similarity between the senator and the attorney general, which might become clear when I mention the third thing that happened. And then when Venus moved into this spot and met up with Neptune, Kamala reappeared and started making speeches. And she showed up, she spoke at a group called Emerge, and she showed up at the Met Gala looking elegant as can be. But each of these shifts had the emergence of a spiritual leader, a leader on a mission, each of whom is not white. I'll just put it that way. So when I was going over the aspects with Louise in our video today, and I saw what was going on with Venus moving into Gemini and having this cooperative aspect with Saturn and Neptune, there will be women leaders, maybe more than one, because Gemini is duality. But women are going to be speaking up and being on a mission. And that's going to be kind of the cleanup of more information coming out about what happened when Mars went through Leo, dot, 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 dot. So more information about things from November on.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
Very interesting. Is there anything in the way the planets are moving or in the US chart that talks about um sort of the response, the implications, how the country as a whole is going to react and respond to some of these things becoming more and more known?
Well, I think that once, as we get into July, once Venus moves into Gemini, I think there will be more and more women banding together, more talk that's useful in those ways. Also, how to say this without getting really, really technical. In late July, Mars is going to go across the planet in the US chart that's a marker for racism, that's a marker for immigration issues, that's a marker for uh, should be separation of church and state, but kind of flipping into theocracy. And I think there'll be some, what are we going to do to clean it up? That starts hitting at that point, which is actually really soon.
Yeah.
I think what's happening with the ICE raids is that people are seeing their neighbors who've just been living their lives, minding their own business, getting pulled out. I mean, kids being pulled out from elementary school graduation. There's a lack of fairness to this, and it's there. So people in communities are seeing their neighbors getting raided and pulled apart, and I think that's having an awakening impact. This is different than, um, if there's a South American gang that's running through your neighborhood doing horrible, horrible things. If
Right.
there were the stormtroopers basically going after, then there'd be a different reaction than these people have been part of our community for 20 years, and how can you do this to them? I will, a fun fact, I think there has been a unifying that's been occurring already that's quite visible. I saw on social media that motorcycle gangs in Los Angeles that have been at war with each other are banding together to stand with the protesters. They're putting their differences aside. And I don't know if you've ever seen motorcycle gangs. They're kind of formidable. They tend to take to the where I live, they go out on the weekends and take their motorcycles out and just drive around because I'm in a really beautiful place near mountains. And you just see them, you just, whoa, I just kind of give them wide berth. So these people are badass. And if they are banding together, I'd say that's an extremely good sign.
Yeah, really. Holy cow. That speaks to a promise, of things just getting better. Because boy, this has to have been, I swear to God, the longest 6 months of my life. It's
I,
just been
tell me about it.
exhausting. Exhausting,
Yes,
right?
yes,
I mean,
yes.
people
Well,
are sending me messages saying, you look really tired. Just take care of yourself. And it's like, I think everybody's really tired.
yeah.
It's just been a
Well,
lot.
I will tell you that at the very beginning of June, when Ukraine pulled off that year and a half strategic attack only on military resources, several of my colleagues and I started contacting each other with, boy, I think this is the beginning of the end. Like, this feels like something is seriously different. And then when the two man babies decided they were going to squall, we were calling each other, just dancing, going, it's happening. Now they've kissed and made up, but I think that is temporary. I think that's temporary.
Yeah, and I don't think that if they have, it's not going to last. And I think a lot of it is just presentation, right?
Yes. Yes, it's please don't take my government contracts from me. Well, okay, maybe, maybe
Yeah,
not.
yeah. Well, that's what happens when you get two people who have so much to hide together.
That's a
When
good
they
way of
get mad
putting
at
it.
each other, the other person has a lot of dirt on you. And so at some point you have to figure out how to make nice again or watch your world implode, right? So just to circle back for a second,
Yeah.
uh, and this isn't kind of fair, people, because I'm just literally throwing this at her.
We'll see.
What can we look for with Russia and Ukraine or Putin and Zelensky? Like, is what is going on in the Ukraine chart specifically that looks like it's going to move this thing to some sort of a resolution? Or is there something going on in Putin slash Russia's chart that indicates that at some point they're just going to lay down their
Yep. Well, first off, Zelensky has a warrior heart. He's an Aquarius with Moon in Leo, like me, but I'm not fighting a war. But that means that there's a stalwartness and a loyalty, and I will see this through, and a fierceness. And Saturn and Neptune are fueling that. And when Mercury moves into Leo at the end of June, that's only, I mean, I think he's going to get a lot of really good intel and see what's been happening with him in the European theater, with Rutte now saying that there's a path to NATO membership for Ukraine that cannot be stopped, and all these other countries coming together and doing things. Add that to the fact that these aspects that I've been talking about in their earlier recurrences uh, coincide with massive country defining beats in Russia's history. And Saturn and Neptune are going to come close together in July, and they will be exactly together in February. And that's my window for something really significant in the structure, the rulership, the everything of Russia collapsing. And boundaries with Ukraine are part of this cycle. Boundaries with Ukraine, what's going on with Finland, countries coming, countries going, but mostly Russia losing territory is a piece of this. So just on that alone, without my even looking at Ukraine's chart,
This is good. This is good
this
news.
is good. Yeah, this is good news. And again, Putin was born with this, so it would. Also, this is just so weird. The city where he was born, now called Leningrad, was founded as St. Petersburg
Mhm.
during a recurrence of where we are now. It's like, what? That's just so strange. Like, connect the dots.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's amazing the cycles. And some of
yeah,
them take a couple hundred years, and some of them take a half a year or a few weeks. But it's amazing the impact they have when you are able to pull back enough to be objective about what's going on so you can see how the pieces fit together. And I gotta say, that's one of the things I really, really appreciate about you is that you are able to put it together so that it makes sense. And so we can see the big picture. Um, for those of you who maybe are new to my channel and don't know, one day I was just whining about why can I not find an astrologer who just tells me what this means? I don't care where the planet is because I don't know what the planet does. And she reached out to me and said, does this make it better? And I was like, oh my God, I found my person. I'm so excited because there's a lot of us who, yeah, we know what sign we're born and we know probably what our rising and our moon sign is. But when it comes to actually analyzing what happened and what it means and what the impact is, it just sort of goes all fuzzy on us. And you
I
were just
understand that.
brilliant at unfuzzing it.
Oh, thank you. Well, translating is one of the things I do. Translating languages, translating terminology. I did it as a lawyer, and I do it as an astrologer.
Well, you're freaking brilliant at it, I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we sort of covered Canada for sure. We've covered a little bit of Ukraine, etc. We've looked at the United States and sort of, I guess, when it comes right down to it, we can just expect a summer of insanity. Would that be an
Yes.
accurate
Hmm.
depiction? And then we get to sort of breathe a little bit into the fall,
Right. Yeah, we start cleaning things up.
and then early in the new year, what happens?
Then the new way that we're approaching everything kicks in,
Okay,
and
this
we
is
don't
good to
slide
know.
back. Now, a couple of things I want to add. One, uh, probable effect of of all these outer planets being in fire and air and fueling each other up, and then Jupiter making people kind of pissy or emotional or whatever, um, could be lightning quick decisions to say that's it and walk out of all kinds of situations. So people could be saying, I'm done, and just going from all kinds of situations. This could happen on a big level. This could happen in your own life. Something that you just decide, life is too short. I'm not messing with X anymore. Here I go. So there's a very strong sense of unpremeditated to a lot of things that will happen. Now, as you look back on it, you'll recognize that you were looking in that direction for a while, but sparks will just go and poof, things will change. And that also means in the big picture, which leads to my second point. There have been many, many opportunities for the situation in Washington to get cleaned out completely. There were many times when it could have been stopped astrologically. And I'm not going to speculate, got some theories, did not happen. But the outs are getting fewer and fewer. The foundations are getting shakier and shakier. We've now hit a point that a mayor has been arrested, a member of the House of Representatives has been indicted for doing her job, and today a senator got tackled to the floor, taken out of a hearing, and tackled by police because he dared to question the head of Homeland Security during a press briefing. So this is unsupportable.
Yeah.
Unsupportable. And there are things happening that people are looking around and going, this is not who we are. We don't have people in wearing masks, chasing people through farms. We don't have, you can just name it again and again and again. And add to that the economic chaos that's been happening, and those who control are getting sick of it. So there are fewer get out of jail free cards available to a certain individual, and we can I I already have my plans in place for what I'm going to do. I know whose house I'm going to drive to with a bottle of champagne, and I know who I'm going to go visit up in Massachusetts. So we're going to walk the Freedom Trail in Boston, and we'll probably live stream it. So I've already got my celebration plans. That's how that's how convinced I am that this has a lifespan and we are in the death throes of it.
Thank goodness. Like truly, truly, thank goodness. All right. Let's just wrap this up by quick taking a look at the insanity that is surrounding um, the Oval Office and the person in the Oval. I I know that you said, because I was listening, that there are some things going on astrologically that can explain why he has become so volatile and so aggressive. What's happening with him, and when is it going to stop?
Well, things hit peak early in um, early in June because of the planet Jupiter, which is like a giant gas bag, or you can think of bellows that just keep going pump, 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 pump. So that went across his sun, his moon, and then it hit maximum when the big let's throw all our toys out of the pram squabble happened. And now with Jupiter moving into Cancer, it's going to start to go across his incredibly emotional. I mean, he communicates emotionally. He does not communicate in a rational way at all. He gets below that. So there have been things amping that up. We had a full moon this week exactly on his full moon. He was born on a Sagittarius full moon. Sun in Gemini, really closely opposite the Sagittarius moon. So that was a full moon. This week we had a Sagittarius full moon right there with one other thing happening. The nodes, the nodes of the moon, their mathematical points, represent where we're coming from and where we're going. We're going much more toward we're all in this together, compassionate, empathetic, being aware of each other. We're releasing, being really critical, the boundary issues, all that kind of stuff. So the full moon was on top of his full moon, and then the nodes were exactly
Oh,
squaring, making something called a grand cross. This pulls you in many directions. It's like the hangman gone crazy in the tarot because sometimes you go this way, sometimes you go that way, but you can't get off. I like to look at it as, because I'm kind of evil, a butterfly specimen pinned alive, and it's just flailing, trying to get out, and the pin will not move. So we've had full moon madness, and it truly has been madness.
okay.
One other thing going on with him.
Yes, yes.
I mentioned that Canada is about to have its Mars return.
Right.
Trump is having his Mars return. He has Mars in Leo, which is, look at me, I'm the king, I'm going to do what I want to do, I'm the king. And it's right on his ascendant, assuming that that time of birth is correct. There are two birth times for him. But the one that everybody uses has Mars right there on the ascendant. So he's just this bellowing, belligerent, me. Everything is colored in gold into a really gaudy and ridiculous way. So Mars is coming around to that. And Mars was in a direct flow, fueling that Sagittarius moon, the ideology, the just going off the deep end. Sagittarius can, nobody hit me with this, because the Sagittarius can have a my way or the highway streak. Like, I know much better than you do. Shut up. It can also be really funny. I mean, there's a lot to value with that. But in his case, that's what's going on. And Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is right on top of all of that, like squelch. So, and Louise and I talked about that in the Back to the Future video. So he's had things making him nuts because basically he was born on an eclipse, and this escalated all the eclipse energy, but didn't give him a way to get out of it because of the nodes being part of it. There's a sense of inevitability and being trapped.
Well, all right then. So, take your vitamins, eat your Wheaties, buy your popcorn, do whatever you need to do because it sounds like it's going to be one hell of a summer. We're probably going to have
Do
her on
stuff that
speed
makes you feel
dial.
good. Hey,
Yeah.
I'll give you my contact.
All right. Thank you. Um, before I wrap this up, Kathy, please give us all the amazing ways we can connect with you. Her channel is awesome. She puts out videos for the astrology of the week, and it's really helpful again because she's so good at sort of breaking it down so it's like this is what you can expect. And then she gives you a picture and a song, and it's just really cool. So if you haven't been checking it out, do so. But tell them all the other
Thank you.
places they can find you.
Well, my channel is Professional Aquarian. My website is empowermentunlimited.net. And if you sign up for my mailing list, you will get my Jupiter in Cancer quick reference guide as a download as a thank you. I also have two other places. On Facebook, I have something called the Astro Insight Lounge, where I discuss how astrology is playing out in the news. And there's a lot of politics, but it's not just that. This week we've looked at the charts of Brian Wilson and Sly Stone, both of whom left in the last couple of days.
What was that
And I
Facebook
have,
name again? Because I haven't heard you mention that or I blanked
oh,
it.
the Astro Insight Lounge.
I'm writing
Astro
that
hyphen
down.
Insight Lounge. Yeah, yeah. Um, it's, a bunch of progressives and a couple of people who say things periodically that make me go, why are you in here? But as long as you're polite, I won't put you out. Um, anyway, I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Kathy Beal with many levels. And at the lowest paid level, you get access, which is $1 a month. You get access to my daily quickie forecasts, which are 30 to 45 seconds of sass about here's what's going to happen today. And people are commenting a whole lot. There's like these wild conversations going on there. Who knew that was how to get my audience to engage with me? But that's what's doing it.
There you have it. Thank you so much.
You're very
For
welcome.
everybody else, this video is coming out on the 16th, because you know that because you're watching it. So yesterday and the day before, the 14th and 15th, should be pretty interesting. So hopefully you will focus and settle in and watch the amazing mind of Kathy and how she just makes it all make sense. I think I'm going to take the rest of that week off. So I will see you all back here on the 23rd. That's what I know. Oh, really fast. Thank you, Beth, for the doing this stuff for Pendulum Friday, because in case I forget. All right. Thank you so much. Until
Thank
next
you.
time, everybody, take care and be well. Bye for now.